Steel Curtain Network.
Touchdown! Touchdown para Calvin Austin! El Monte Washington es arma. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién más? DJ Watt!
What is going on, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Post-Game Show. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Dave Schofield and Bryan Davis. Steelers win in the preseason finale 19-10 in Charlotte, North Carolina against the Carolina Panthers. It's a lot to talk about, like how bad that Panthers broadcast is. But anyways, Dave, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Yeah, we all got stuck with that. It took me forever to figure out. I'm like, who? I know, and I could tell it was Steve Smith talking. Like, who's the other former Panther that's talking? What's quarterback? You know how I never caught the name. I finally had to look it up to remember. I had to look up which quarterback ripped their pants in a game for the Panthers.
Oh my gosh, you don't remember Jake?
And then it came, and I'm like, oh yeah, Jake Delhomme. That's what
Jake,
it is.
daylight come and you got a Delhomme, as Chris Berman once said.
So, but no, really, when it comes to this game, very, in the first half, it got to a point where I even tweeted this out. I didn't care about the game anymore. I was more about the injury update. Anything coming there, that was the only thing that really mattered anymore. So hopefully everything seems like it all turned out okay.
Bryan, what's up?
All right, I have a few observations. The very first one is after I agree with you on the broadcast, at halftime, I'm like, I'm done. So I got out my Roku stick, I turned it all the way down, got out my phone, turned it all the way up, listened to Rob King, listened to Max Starks, and Ramon Foster was doing sidelines just for the preseason because he is getting a play-by-play gig at his alma mater, the University of Tennessee. But it was such a stark contrast, and I love Rob King and Max Starks. They just aren't gregarious and don't have the great personalities that we knew in the past. From Myron to Tunch to Wolf. My gosh, I miss those guys, but we have a really good team in Pittsburgh. And I'm talking broadcast team.
Yeah, for sure. And so before we get started with everything, let's talk about what Dave alluded to, the biggest news, I guess you want to call it, the injury. It was weird that this wasn't a play that you saw someone coming on the field. They didn't have to get him off the field with help. Obviously, first-round draft pick Derek Hartman leaves with a knee injury. He goes into the blue tent. He comes out of the tent. He gets carted to the locker room. They have video of him leaving, and he looks very distraught, and he looks upset. I get it. I mean, this guy's worked his whole life for this opportunity, and then all of a sudden, it looks like it might be taken away from him, at least for the time being. But then again, by the end of the game, he is on the sidelines. He walked to the sidelines in street clothes, sat next to Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, was kind of joking with them. So Mike Tomlin, after the game in the post-game press conference, said that it was labeled as a knee sprain of some sort and that he's still being evaluated. So a lot of people like me, I'm looking at it and saying if he was seriously hurt or there was a potential for serious injury, they're not letting him walk out there and they're not letting him just hang around. But at the same time, sprains are different. There's different severities of sprain. But right now, it looks like at least he avoided, hopefully, the major season-ending knee injury. Dave, what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, to me, if they were concerned with it, he would have been in that straight leg brace, the brace that runs, from above your middle thigh down to the middle of your calf, where you weren't going to be able to bend a thing. So if they were worried that it could have been something like that, is what I'm assuming. That's not seeing that makes me think like, hey, maybe it's something, who knows? Maybe he's going to be held out of practice. Maybe even we'll see what happens with everything. I don't want to just assume week one and everything's okay. But it doesn't look like, as of right now, it's something that's going to be like, oh, there's another rookie season gone.
True, and that would have been if it was a severe injury and he missed the year, it would have been the second straight year a first-round pick misses the majority, if not all, of his rookie season. Bryan, what are your thoughts? What'd you say, Dave?
With a knee,
correct,
as well. Yeah.
Bryan, what's your thoughts on Hartman?
Yeah, I was scared to death, and the worst part about it is, you know how it is, especially if you have older parents or if you have teenagers that drive. If you get a phone call in the middle of the night, you get scared to death. When I'm watching a Steeler game and I see breaking news from Dave Schofield on the Slack channel, my heart sinks because it's not about anything but an injury. I mean, on our team, he's the injury guy. And he usually gets it out first. And I saw that. I'm like, oh, damn it. Who is it? And then I saw Hartman. I'm like, no, because I didn't see it happen. And again, those broadcasters, they were the most homerish ones of the entire season, by the way. And they gave you nothing. And I didn't know who was making tackles. I didn't know who was missing tackles. I didn't know who was doing what. But if you can get away with a sprain, just how severe is it? But that's a good thing. That's not a break, and it's not a tear. So I'll take a sprain. Sprains hurt, but if he's laughing and joking and not despondent anymore, then it was just a cart ride.
Yeah, and I do want to say that he wasn't the only injury. Brandon Johnson also is dealing with some type of foot injury. I don't know if that's a foot sprain, but it really sucks. I really feel bad for these guys because Brandon Johnson might have been able to play his way onto the practice squad or be like one of those guys. When you get hurt in the last preseason game, the odds of you even getting there is going to be very, very difficult. So that's awful. And so those were the main two injuries of note after the game. And so that's tough. That's tough for the young man, Brandon Johnson, to have to deal with. But we have a game to break down nonetheless. Again, the Steelers win 19-10. We start on offense like we always do. Do we have any super chats before we get started, Dave?
No, we just had breaking news.
Oh, what's that?
That was from Jer Bear.
Oh, good.
Yep,
Good old Jerry Dulac. His report is number one pick Derek Hartman has a knee sprain and will have an MRI tomorrow in Pittsburgh. His injury is not season ending, but he is expected to be out at least a couple weeks per sources.
Well, there's a couple weeks until the season starts, so there you go. In the meantime, YA Black looked pretty darn good, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yes.
All right, so let's start with the offense, as we always do, and let's start with the quarterback position. Skylar Thompson leads the way for the Steelers, 11 of 13, 152 yards, 11.7 average, one touchdown, no interceptions, wasn't sacked, for a 141.0 rating. Logan Woodside was second with four out of 6, 38 yards passing, 6.3 average. Mason Rudolph, 6 of 8. So out of the three quarterbacks, only 6 incompletions, pretty incredible. Mason had 36 yards, a 4.5 average, and he threw a really, really bad interception.
So technically 5 incompletions because one of them was caught by the other team.
Yeah, good point. So there you have it. As a team, as a collective, they throw for 226, 21 of 27, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, no sacks on the day, and 98.5 rating. Dave, what did you think about the quarterback play?
I was kind of underwhelmed by Mason Rudolph, unfortunately. Yeah, that interception looked really bad. It's like he didn't even see that guy. The thing is, when they showed the replay from behind the quarterback, he was open so much sooner than when he was getting the ball to him.
Yeah.
I think if he throws that ball more in the middle of the field earlier to him, it's not a problem. But that one looked pretty bad. But it was really hard to get anything going with Mason Rudolph because of all the stupid penalties as well, just killing everything. So he didn't help his own cause. Other people weren't helping him out with putting him behind the sticks. But man, Skylar Thompson, as Coach Tomlin says, shows that he started games in the NFL. That experience shows he looked pretty good out there.
All right, I'm going to ask you this, Dave, and then I'm going to let Brian talk. Actually, I'll wait, and we'll ask you at the same time. Brian, what was your take on the quarterback play?
Dave's right about the situations they were in, but he had less incompletions, Mason Rudolph, than Skylar Thompson. But they were for 30-some yards. I thought he was downright horrible. And really, 6 of 8, you can call that downright horrible. Dave's right about the interception. But also on that interception, my gosh, you see Caleb Johnson was all alone and would have probably took a screen pass into the end zone on that interception if they would have went that way. But, I understand you're in the moment. Man, I would just pick and just like that guy in Necessary Roughness and say, tackle me, please. But I thought Mason, I don't think Mason is the guy I want at number 2 anymore. At this point, this is very knee-jerk, and I'll take Skylar Thompson.
Well, that was my question. And I was going to ask you all, has anything that has taken place this preseason, so you got to take in Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Has anything suggested to you that if something were to happen with the quarterback 1, that maybe there's a discussion as to who the quarterback 2 is? Dave, I'll let you go first.
I don't think there is. I think just his time with the Steelers and everything else with Mason Rudolph, that's his job. I don't think it was ever in question. I still don't think it's in question. I will tell you this. If what we think is going to happen, both Jeff and I with our predictions of the 53-man roster, if we think that Will Howard goes on IR and they keep Skylar Thompson as QB3, if the worst happens and QB1 goes down, I don't think it would be a very long leash for QB2 before going to for Mason Rudolph before going to Skylar Thompson. I think that's the difference. But I still don't think it's enough to actually flat up replace him in that role.
All right, Brian, did you want to expound on what you had just said prior?
Yeah, I'm going to actually expound on Dave. So if that's the case and there's a short leash, then it's the same scenario of Mitch Trubisky to Mason Rudolph back in 2023.
Yeah,
so yeah,
probably shorter.
Probably shorter. I have more confidence in Skylar Thompson. One thing that I'll say about Skylar Thompson, I remember, and I was watching a lot of these games back at the end of 23 to see the Steelers go into the playoffs because they needed some help from Miami. And then Miami ended up going into the playoffs instead because of Skylar Thompson. And I believe he beat Buffalo in the last week of the season, but Buffalo had everybody sitting. But then the next week against Buffalo in the playoffs, they only lost by less than a touchdown. And he looked he looked decent for being a QB 3 or 4, being stuck in that position. I think the guy has, here's my old man word, a lot more moxie and a lot more drive as far as what Mason Rudolph has. And that's my number 2. He's my QB 2.
I was going to say, I think that game was in week 17 or whatever, 18, when I can't remember how far back it was. I think that was against the Jets, because I think that was Joe Flacco screwing the Steelers again with the Jets. And then, but you're right, they did play well against Buffalo in the playoffs, much better than I thought they would.
And it was Skylar.
Yeah.
I will say this, and I said this before, and it kind of feels like a 2019 situation if we were to get into that with Mason and that at the time Devlin Duck Hodges, and then it would be Skylar Thompson this time. But still, I don't need to see Mason Rudolph in the preseason. I've seen so much Mason Rudolph preseason football in my time being a Steeler fan. I don't need to see any more. The guy's proven what he can do in the regular season, and we got to see what Skylar Thompson can do. And I was very impressed.
Yeah.
Very impressed. Do I think that he's going to be a starting caliber quarterback in the National Football League? No, I'm not. But at the same time, I think he's very good depth. I agree with what Dave said, because we both agreed on our predictions that they slide Will Howard onto the injured reserve list, and Skylar Thompson's your QB3. And now all of a sudden, if you, like you said, the leash that you have, if something does go down with QB1, well, you have some viable options. Could you imagine if like Logan Woodside was your QB3? You have no option. You have none. And at least now they do. So for me, I thought Skylar Thompson really did himself some favors this preseason, whether he sticks on the Steelers roster all year and is looking for a job next year, or whatever the case is, he looked the part. I'll put it that way. And the dude is not scared to throw the ball downfield at all. I like that. There's something about that. We haven't seen that since Roethlisberger. I'm sure Rodgers will be the same way, but Dave, what do you want to say? You were rubbing.
I was going to say also, if you've got a team out there that they're dealing with an injury or anything, and they would like a much more competent backup quarterback, maybe it's the trade market.
Price better be right. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Like, I'm not trading Skylar Thompson for a 7th round draft pick or something like that. Like,
but if they do trade him because Will Howard's actually going to be okay, then they're all right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So all in all, I thought this was a pretty good preseason for the quarterbacks, because even though Mason Rudolph threw some bad interceptions the last 2 games, he did look really good in week 1 against Jacksonville against those starters, so we can't forget that as well. But speaking of throwing passes, let's talk about the pass catchers. Scotty Miller, he does it again. 3 catches on 3 targets for 82 yards, the long of 53 with a handful of seconds left in the first half that sets him up in field goal range, an average of 27.3 yards. Lance McCutcheon, He had 3 catches for 52 yards. He had a touchdown along with 24. Keyshawn Williams, 2 catches on 3 targets. Lou Nichols, 3 catches, 4 targets. Trey Sermon, 3 catches, 4 targets. They were checking the ball down a lot if you didn't watch the game. But still, Dave, what do you think about the pass catchers?
I mean, part of the reason there weren't very many completions is because the pass catchers were catching the passes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, I noticed in this game, I'm going to talk about who's not on this list more than anything. Roman Wilson is not on this list.
Correct.
Roman Wilson played a ton on special teams in this game. Coach Tomlin alluded to it about that was maybe going to be week 2. It ended up being week 3. He was playing gunner. He was on all kinds of special teams. And the last play of the first quarter was a pretty nice run. Man, did he come down and make a really excellent block. So it was one of those things of, you know what? I think we're good with Roman Wilson. Let's see the other things he can do other than catch the football. And you know what? They had a lot of other guys that caught the football. I mean, Scotty Miller has made himself uncuttable, in my opinion. The way he's played in everything from camp and the way he's played in the preseason. So, which I find is interesting. Another name, where is he? Because I thought he caught a pass in there. He's missing on my list. Didn't good old Bobby Trees pull in a pass, or did he get called back on a penalty?
I think he got called back on one of the 25 penalties they had.
Yeah. So that's why I didn't see his name, because he's the guy. For those of you that don't realize, that's Robert Woods. Just making sure. Don't want to be accused of not being clear enough. He's another one that's kind of played himself out of Pittsburgh for the most part. That he wasn't utilized much at all in the preseason, and when he was out there, now it wasn't as much this game, but like the last game, he was out there at the end, not towards the beginning. So I don't know what they're thinking about him.
I don't know. Like you said, I don't know how they keep Scotty Miller off the roster. But at the same time, I think the health of Ben Skoranek will be key to this as well. Brian, what do you think about the pass catchers?
Yeah, guys, so much heart. There's so much heart by this Steeler team all preseason long. And I will tell you that. Now, there's some things I'm going to complain about, but the pass catchers, I thought they personified it more than anybody. And I really liked what Scotty Miller did. And I would be bummed if he is not on the roster. Do they try to trade a guy like Scotty Miller? I hope not. I think he could be valuable. We saw how valuable he was for Tom Brady down the stretch in 2021. I think he was a rookie there, but in the playoffs, he was gold. He was outplaying AB. He wasn't outplaying Evans, but man, he was playing some good football back then. He plays with a ton of heart. These guys, number 85, help me out with Keyshawn
Williams.
My gosh, that guy plays with heart, and he's not going to get a hat here. Johnson, what you said about with the injury, that breaks my heart because that guy just played with so much moxie and pride. 82, McCutcheon as well. I really liked all of these pass catchers, and I wish they could keep 9. I wish it was like a 90-man roster and he kept all of these guys. But you can't. But number 1 has to be Scotty Miller. I think it would be a crime for the preseason that he had. And he had them against better defenders than some of these guys in third and fourth quarters. So really, you got to love what you have. And if you love what you have now, you're really going to love what you have when DK Metcalf comes in, when Calvin Austin III is healthy. And I want to bring up what Dave said about Roman Wilson, because I did not notice that. Dave, thank you for pointing it out. Let me tell you this. What this tells me more than anything is that Tom Arth, Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith, they have an exact folder that's the Roman Wilson plan. And they have his development on the forefront of a lot of things like they do other players. And I got to tell you, the way they handled him this offseason, this preseason, great job. So I'm fine with him not having a catch if he was out there doing other things. When you can do that dirty work, man, you can be very valuable to an NFL team.
Roman Wilson might not have had a catch. He did have a fumble recovery, so keep that in the back.
Oh yeah, that's right. that as well. So
when Jalen Warren coughed it up.
I was going to say one other thing about Scotty Miller. I said he's made himself uncuttable. I don't think that's true. Scotty Miller is the prime candidate that if the Steelers have more than 2 players they're going to want to put on IR designated to return, to be, because you can do 2 when you cut down to 53. If you have more, they've got to be on the roster until noon the next day. Scotty Miller's, and this would mainly be if it was one of the wide receivers, like if it was Skoranek or CA3 that they wanted to start the season on IR. Scotty Miller would be the prime cut candidate because he's a vested veteran, and we're saying, hey, we're bringing you right back. We just got to get them to IR, and then he just comes right back with the same deal that what he had before.
Yeah. That's a good point. I thought the pass catchers did a good job. I love some of the depth that they have, and as it's going to bleed into the running game. But Lou Nichols catching the ball in the backfield, Trey Sermon catching the ball in the backfield, Jalen Warren, they were definitely getting him the football early in this game. It looks like it's going to be a very versatile passing attack, and I say that because the Steelers just don't run the ball that well. Let's talk about the running game. Trey Sermon leads the way, 4 carries for 39 yards. 30 of those came on one run. Caleb Johnson, 5 for 24. Long of 8 yards. Lou Nichols, 2 for 14. Evan Hull, 2 for 9, and a bunch of others. What did you guys think about the running game? Dave, I'll let you go first.
Well, they didn't run very much, but
No.
Believe it or not, they ran very efficiently. I mean, they got 5.5 yards a pop, and they busted out some, and that's not even counting the 26-yarder they got called back on a penalty.
Right.
Early in the game. So I was kind of bummed that they didn't hit 100 yards to at least do that. But, I mean, they did it on 18 carries. Coach Tomlin was asked about it in the post-game press conference. They're like, oh, you're struggling with the running game. He's like, what struggle? We were 99 from 18. What's the deal? They're like, well, early on, he's like, it's a 60-minute game. And that's just what he said. So I thought the run game, there was some good flashes. I'll tell you one thing I did like specifically from Caleb Johnson tonight that I noticed in this game more than others. And I don't think it's him. I think it was the play calls that he was getting the ball running forward, which I think is really important for him. Like they even ran the toss play. And I know people wanted, the toss play. No, the toss play isn't bad. It's it's that toss play that they would try to run with Najee last year that was like the wide zone, that you're running horizontally while you're catching the ball in the toss. They tossed it to Johnson tonight, and he caught that thing coming forward. And I really like to see how explosive he was getting up the field today. I thought that was pretty good. And both Nichols and Sermon, I really like both of those guys. Kind of disappointing with stuff with Jalen Warren with the fumble and everything else. Would have been a little bit. Would have liked to seen something a little more there. Not that he didn't run well, but that's kind of concerning, and that's been an issue with him more than anything over the last several years. But I mean, this is really all the work that he's got in the preseason, so it's kind of hard to say, oh, this is really your first crack at it, where these other guys have been running. This is their third game running everything. So, but really did like what I saw. And even Kenneth Gainwell, I thought was all right. He had, like I said, had the big run, but they got called back. So in all, I was fine with the running game. They just didn't run a bunch.
Well, and two, there's something about that turf, but they didn't have the right cleats, or a lot of guys slipping. Jalen Warren was slipping.
Yeah, he was slipping
constantly.
everywhere.
And so I thought they always had grass down in Carolina, but it seems like they replaced it with turf, which is god awful. But anyways, Brian, what did you think about the running game?
All right, I was pleased too, but let me set this up, guys. I've complained about this the entire preseason, and Jalen Warren, to me, I'm fine with him, but he is not a superstar caliber back that should have the first 2 preseason games off. He is not in the same wheelhouse, not in the same level, not even in the same house as TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers. he should not have had 2 preseason games off, because he obviously, I mean, he's not even a draft pick. He is a guy that has come in and done very well, but now you're making him top of the depth chart with Najee Harris gone, and you give him superstar treatment. That is one of the few things I'm going to complain about the Steelers organization tonight. That was egregious. He should have never. If you keep him out of the first game, that's fine. He should have been in the game last week. He is not that great enough to be able to get that star treatment and come in, and it showed on a fumble, I think the first time that he touched the ball. And Dave's right. It has popped up a lot, but he was never the number one running back. Now he is considered the top running back. I know it'll probably be more of a platoon this year. I think that's what Arthur Smith's going to want to do, and I get it. I liked everything else that I saw. I didn't hate Jaylen Warren. I hated the fact that he was in this position, because he should have had more carries this whole preseason. Not good. You mismanaged tonight with him, where you managed Roman Wilson well and managed everything else really well. You didn't manage this guy right.
Well, that's fine. I understand what you're saying, Brian. Let me ask you this, though. Do you think that Jaylen Warren is vital to the Steelers' success in the ground game this year?
He is, but he's not polished enough.
Well, I'm just trying to say, because it's a different room now. And so Najee's gone. I understand what you're saying, that he should probably get his work in, but at the same time, he is the veteran with the Steelers. I know Kenneth Gainwell's on the team, but I mean, he's the veteran amongst all that whole group. And so if you were to lose him, and let's be honest, he also hasn't been able to stay healthy throughout the early portions of his career. I understand why they did what they did, but I guess I also see why he would want a little work. And I thought it was interesting too, and I'm sure Dave caught this, when Mike Tomlin was asked about the starters and how much they played. He said they wanted more, and we told them no. So this is going to come, like you said, Brian, it comes down to an organizational thing. The players want to play, most likely, and it's just they're being held out. So it's an interesting. Brian, Dave, any take on that?
Yeah, I think Brian's right. I don't know that Jaylen Warren should have received that kind of treatment. That he probably could have used a little bit more, experience getting ready for the season. But I like Jeff was kind of alluding to. It's not that they were. It's like they were trying to bubble wrap some players more than any. Reduce the risk of injury and stuff like that. But no, Brian's right with that. Jaylen Warren, even though he's the only running back that's been with the Steelers more than this year, that's not the way they should have played it with him, in my opinion. But I also think, like even going back to last year, when I was talking about the Steelers need to have more weapons on the field, I considered Jaylen Warren a weapon. I didn't really consider Najee Harris a weapon. So it's really going to be how they utilize him with a lot of other stuff. He's more of a guy that when they do a little bit more of, I'm not going to call it trickeration or anything like that, but their non-vanilla offense, he actually gives some things that they can do more. When it's just line up in the backfield and hand off the ball every time, and that's kind of all we're doing here for the preseason, that's not really his game. So I could also see why they're like, well, why even bother then?
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's, go ahead, Brian, what were you going to say?
I'm just going to say, yeah, and 100% correct. And I don't think this is Jaylen Warren's fault. Nothing. I'm not saying anything bad about Jaylen Warren. I just don't think he's an 80-20 back. I don't think he's a feature back. I think he is more of a 50% back, where two other guys, or maybe three other guys, are going to make that other 50%. I just don't think he's a bell cow.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's fair, but we'll see. And honestly, if you're looking at the summation of the preseason, you're seeing the Steelers are not a running team. They are going to throw the football. And some people might not like it, but this offensive line at this juncture, early on in the season, if you're someone like, let's say, fantasy players, I would load up on Steelers receivers more than a DK Metcalf for sure. I think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. So let's talk about that offensive line. They did a good job keeping the pass rush away from the Steelers quarterbacks. The Steelers were not sacked. In terms of quarterback hits, the Carolina defense registered three. So pretty good job there. But then you look at the running numbers, not bad, average 5.5. I thought the offensive line, especially the starters, I thought they looked good. I have no complaints about the Steelers' offensive line. Dave, you're the offensive line guru. What do you think?
Had some penalties that moved
Well,
them back. I mean,
yeah.
but that was just the story of the day more than anything. I mean, even the backup line, oh, my goodness, Ryan McCullum finally gets out there, and he's had 3 penalties on him?
Yeah.
I think it was. So to me, that was the biggest thing with the offensive line was penalties. Other than that, when I first started watching the game, I actually had to start watching it on my phone, so I couldn't zoom in on the offensive line as much. So I didn't really get to, I'll go back and watch it again and specifically look at Broderick Jones and Troy Fontanu and try to break that down a little bit more. But for right now, nothing stood out that made me feel like, oh no, this is bad. It's the whole he didn't kill us.
Yeah. Brian, thoughts on that?
I'm going to be short and sweet. Very pleased. Lots of growth with this unit. I felt better in week 2 than I did in week 1, and I felt pretty decent in week 1. I feel a whole lot better in week 3 than I do in week 2 when it comes to the offensive line. Kudos.
All right. Very good. I thought the offensive line, like I said, the depth is not there. It's not what I would like. I would love to see them make some moves. If everyone's talking about wide receiver, I would love for them to sign a quality tackle. Was Calvin Anderson not in the lineup again,
Nope,
Dave?
he was still injured. That's the problem. But I'll tell you what, Andrews Pete, he didn't. They had him at tackle the first preseason game. He didn't do very well. He was at guard week 2, was pretty well. I'm not even sure where he was lined up to start. I just noticed his numbers as it went on. I think he's going to be a quality reserve player for them.
Yeah.
Very good pickup.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else on the offense, guys, you want to talk about? Great.
What they do in the regular season, when we could talk about it in 17 days.
Exactly. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the defense, and then we'll get out of here. Stay tuned. If you're watching live, we're not going anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. All right, Steeler fans, thank you all for being patient. We are back. Before we dive into the defense, Dave, any super chats?
No, not that I've seen so far.
All right, no news is good news. Let's get this started with the defensive side of the football. Let's talk about the pass defense first. Bryce Perkins and Jake Plummer were the quarterbacks of note for the Carolina Panthers. They combined for 17 of 25, 84 yards, a 4.8 yard average, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 3 sacks, and
I've got 119 yards.
Oh, I've only got 84 on
Yeah,
ESPN.
might want to hit refresh.
Hey, the game's over. I have since then.
Okay.
But still,
Yeah, I have 17 for 25, 119 yards, 4.8 average, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
Okay, I just refreshed, same thing. So we'll see. It's a discrepancy there. They were sacked 3 times, 75.3 rating. Let's talk about the secondary first. Jimmy Pierre, he gets an interception. Good for him. Probably solidified his spot on the 53-man roster with that. Dave, what's your thoughts on the pass defense?
Someone asked a question earlier, and I don't have an answer for them. Did Beanie Bishop play?
I didn't see him. If he did, I saw Brandon Eccles. I didn't see him.
Saw Brandon Eccles. Obviously, you were really paying attention to the big 3 when they first started out there. You really couldn't miss them too much. The pass defense, I mean, honestly, 119 yards for the game. That's not bad. So yeah, there was nothing that I thought was egregious. There was a couple third down conversions that they gave up that was kind of disappointing. The touchdown, I don't know who screwed that up, but that dude was so wide open.
Yeah.
It wasn't funny, but that obviously wasn't the first group. So for me, the pass defense was not something that I was concerned about.
All right. Brian, what do you think?
I'd like to know how many of those passing yards, only 119 of them, how many of them were on screen passes? Because it seems like that's what killed the Steelers more than anything. That one long one that you just talked about, that there was some assignment missed. but I think it's hard to evaluate the defensive backs in this game because I don't think they were tested whatsoever. I feel like linebackers were probably tested more because of the screen passes. I didn't even notice some of those guys out there. Of course, we'll get to him because it's more of a run defense thing. But Jalen Ramsey was noticeable, but not as defending the pass.
I'm looking at the numbers here, Brian, and their number one receiver was Dominic Daphne, 2 catches for 21 yards.
Yeah.
I think he's a running back. And then TJ Luther, and then a bunch of guys just had 1 or 2 catches for minimal yardage. They spread it around, but it wasn't like one person did a lot of damage. So, yeah.
It was only 119 yards. There's only so much you can do.
Right. So ultimately, I agree with what Brian said, and Dave, you kind of alluded to as well, that the secondary was not really tested, just in general. So let's talk about the pass rush. Like I said, the Steelers had 3 sacks of Bryce Perkins. They were really close to Jack. I almost said Jake Plummer. Jack Plummer. On more than one occasion. Jack Sawyer cannot buy a sack at this stage of his preseason. I mean, my gosh, that guy's been so close. The Steelers who registered sacks, Wyatt Black had 2. He also had a forced fumble. And then the lone other sack was Kyler Ball.
Yep.
Hey, I love the celebrations from these guys.
Yep.
The Wyatt Black rubbing his belly out there. Like, that's big man, do the dance. Like, that's what I love to see. Let the big bear dance.
Well, I want to say something about Y.A. Black.
Okay.
He got credit for that second sack. It's really weird because of how it worked. Because think about it. It was actually, who was it? Welshoff and somebody else?
Sawyer.
Was it? I don't know if it was Sawyer. It might have been Sawyer.
Sawyer was in there.
The reason Black gets credit for the sack is because he actually knocked the ball out first. And the quarterback fumbled it, recovered it. So that right there is a strip sack. Then he is a returner from a fumble when they get to him and he fumbles it again. So that's why Black got credit for that sack. That's just the way that everything works. Because it looked like that Black had missed the sack, but because he got the ball out, he then got credit for the sack, even though the quarterback could have picked it back up and still thrown it, and then it wouldn't have been a sack anymore. But because of the way it all played out, that's what it was. I find that as a statistical person quite interesting that that's who gets awarded that. But I thought Y.A. Black was just a beast out there tonight. They couldn't do anything to stop him. They really couldn't. I thought the pass rush was it's kind of like the tackling, especially in the run defense, what I know we'll get to soon. The tackling was not good tonight. And when the tackling isn't good, that also includes tackling to finish off a sack. So that would have been more helpful if the tackling was better. But they did get a lot of pressure.
Oh my gosh, how many times did DeMarvin Leal have the quarterback lined up and just miss the sack? It's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
That's not going to make you the team.
No.
You can be in the
if he
neighborhood.
Gets that sack, then maybe the whistle's already blown and we don't get the injury to Derek Harmon, because Leal's the one who missed
I was
that
thinking
sack.
that too, Dave. I was cussing him because of that.
So,
all right, Brian, what was your thought on the pass rush there in the sack department?
You know what? Ditto, echo. I agree with all of that. I would like to touch on the tackling a little more. If I was scared of anything on the defense tonight, it's how bad the tackling. I mean, gosh, they had Etienne dead, not Travis, but Trevor, the little brother. They had him dead, and he scooted out of that. They couldn't tackle to save their lives in that first quarter mostly. And that's where I want to see a lot of stuff. But I also realize that you've got a lot of missing pieces out there. And so, I got a text from a buddy that said, a good thing this is preseason. Yeah, but if this was a regular season game, none of half of this stuff's not happening. so don't worry about it. But it was for tonight. That was my cause for concern. But DeMarvin, my gosh, he's doing everything to get there, and he's like petering out at the end. He's just like, all right, I'm done. Ole, what's this Ole BS?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Come on, Dorn, get in front of the damn ball. Anyways, so I can always throw Major League into any podcast. But anyways, yeah, I agree with what you guys said. The penalties, we'll talk about the penalties at the end, but the tackling was almost equally as frustrating. Let's finish this up with the run defense, which the statistics look absolutely god-awful. The Carolina Panthers rushed for 171 yards on 35 carries, a 4.9-yard average, and a 28-yard long. And that 28-yard long was that Etienne run that Brian alluded to where the tackling was so poor. The run defense had looked pretty good in the first 2 weeks, but not so much today. Brian or Dave, what did you think about that?
Here's what's interesting. If you look at the first half, there were 17 rushes by Carolina. 10 of those 17 were for 4 yards or less. Several of them were for negative, tackle for loss. The problem was the number of rushes that they let bust out on them. It was inconsistent, is what I'm going to say, as much as anything. Just terribly, terribly inconsistent with the way it all went down. Because when you looked at it in the second half, although all of a sudden now the Steelers media sites wonking out on me, so I can't even pull up that number of exactly what it was. But they gave up 102 rushing yards on 17 carries in the first half. So they only gave up, 69 yards on, because with the total of, on 18 carries in the second half. So Carolina, the biggest thing they did with running the ball to get the yards they did, especially the second half, was volume. But it was the inconsistency in stopping the run, and I'm going to attribute to the tackling more than anything. That was the concern.
All right, Brian, thoughts on the run defense?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty bad. It's not a super chat, but somebody said after Hartman went out, and no, this stuff was happening from the opening gun, with not being able to tackle anybody. So even with Hartman on the field, that stuff was going on. They weren't tackling. The run defense was bad. But I gotta bring up one guy that's not here, and it's Minkah Fitzpatrick. But if Jalen Ramsey's going to do the Jalen Ramsey things that Minkah Fitzpatrick did as well, because Minkah was a great run stopper too. And Jalen, those 3 tackles, he was a missile out there. And when you have him on your run defense, that's going to mean a lot against some of these big-time runners in the National Football League.
Yeah, it's definitely I'm not concerned about it. Let's put it that way. I don't think this will be I think the Steelers' run defense is going to be much better. I do agree with your point, though, about Minkah Fitzpatrick. Go ahead, Dave. What are you going to say?
Oh, there was another player I thought was playing pretty well, especially there in the second half. That was doing his job, taking on multiple blockers and still holding his own up there, was one Daniel Ekuale that some people were forgetting about on that defensive line. He actually he seemed to have a pretty good night.
Who makes the cut along the defensive line in terms of depth is going to be fascinating, because there's so many different players that have different skill sets, and it'll be interesting to watch. And by the way, in case you're watching or listening, it has to be done by Tuesday. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, last year, didn't they make a couple waves of cuts? Didn't they cut an initial 10 and then another 13 or whatever to eventually get down to 53?
Yes. They don't have to just wait till the last minute and announce all of them. What they'll do is they'll announce some that are gone, that have been released, and then they won't do some of the ones that are, and that's what's crazy. Sometimes you'll be like, whoa, I had that person on my 53, and that's one of the first ones they announced. So sometimes you don't really know the rhyme or reason behind what they're doing, but they'll announce a number of cuts, and then the next thing they'll do is they'll announce who is the 53, and then you have to figure out the rest of the cuts along the way.
Yeah. All right. So let's I do want to talk about the penalties. I feel like it was a combination of really sloppy play. I felt like the officials were getting paid for the flag thrown. It was unbelievable. Like people on Twitter kept on saying to me, I think they took the over on penalties. And let's check the sports books. Maybe the Steelers were penalized. Let me see the exact number here. They were
13
penalized
for 104.
13 times for 104 yards.
I'm not looking at it. That was from memory.
And this was all 4 quarters, folks. If you're thinking, well, the scrubs in the second half, they must have really gotten slot. Nope, they were not. That was all 4 quarters. Any thoughts on the penalty woes, Dave?
Yeah, stop doing that. Honestly, I don't think the officiating was all that great. I said early on, I think I'm seeing Adrian Hill more than I am any of the players. That was the head official. Then it just seemed bad when they switched at halftime and he let the back judge take over as to give. He honestly, you could tell that's not something he had really done before calling. I mean, we still don't know. We didn't even know which team the unsportsmanlike penalty was on that second punt, let alone what the player was. I think some of the calls just weren't great anyway. The officials just seemed, I know some people talked about that virtual spot. The virtual spot comes out and says 2 feet 5 inches. They call it 2.5 inches, which I thought was interesting. Was
that Jake Delhomme that said that?
No, the official said it in the second half, and then it said on the graphic 4th and inches. I'm like, no, it's not. It's almost a full yard. So that was
It's a preseason.
It's a preseason game.
Brian, any thoughts on the penalties?
Yeah, that's a lot to clean up. I want to bring up one penalty, and I would have been angry if the refs did not call Jalen Ramsey for that penalty on the Steelers. That was one of the most egregious Steelers penalties I've ever seen. Don't know why he did it. I hope that doesn't continue in the regular season. But there was a lot of, I don't think that was a mental error. I think that was just, hey, I've arrived in Pittsburgh, and that's all there is, and I'm going to assert my authority. With that, a lot of it was just dumb stuff. The McCollum stuff. Ryan McCollum knows better than he was warned on that stuff, and he was still messing around with the ball. I
want to go back and look at that block at the back they called on him because I didn't see that. That was an open field right there. Maybe I just missed it.
Yeah, all I know is that there was just a lot of dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And that gets cleaned up, but there's a lot of people that you expect not to be making those dumb mistakes. And I want to say again, I don't want to have to worry about number 5, as dynamic as he is, making those dumb mistakes, because that's what you got rid of George Pickens for.
Absolutely. David,
but remember, it's the preseason. We also didn't mind when Darnell Washington dunked it on the goalpost.
True. Absolutely.
That deserved to be penalized, but it was nice to see.
Absolutely.
Or he's like, I'm only getting 1 series. I don't want to take that off the field. Let's give him a first down so I can play longer.
Maybe. I don't know.
I said that. Can I jump in? I said that to my son. I'm like, I almost think he's only here for 1 series. I almost think he did that. Watch, he gets an interception on this next play. He didn't, but I could see him extending his time out there.
Yep.
All right, this has been good. This wraps up the preseason. Dave, what do you want to say?
Super chat.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, it's from Steeler Fan 69. $5 in the tip jar.
Thank you very much.
Here we go.
Tip.
So it says, how would I describe parenting? Like the supergroup Guns N' Roses. Started at Sweet Child of Mine and quickly escalated to Welcome to the Jungle.
That is good. That is very accurate.
Yeah, you know what, super fan, you gotta have a little patience. Just a little patience.
Didn't you? Hey, Patience is a great one. November Rain's one of my favorite Guns N' Roses songs.
Oh, November Rain's epic. Oh, I'm huge on Guns N' Roses. I got to see them at Three River Stadium. Amazing.
What a great video. November Rain is a phenomenal video.
Yeah.
People don't talk about videos anymore. But anyways.
So good. and then go back, and there was a little series. Estranged is just as good. If you look at that in YouTube, that kind of goes along with November Rain. Great stuff. Yeah. Now I got to go break that out. The blue one.
People don't do music videos anymore because even the channels there used to be 2 channels dedicated to just music videos. You have to get to like their fourth version of them to where they actually show music videos anymore.
VH1, the Ocho.
Well,
yeah.
What's funny is that they still do music videos. My kids will be like, "Oh yeah, I watched the music video for this." I'm like, "Where?" They just put them on YouTube. That's all they do. So, anyways, all right, Brian, I'll let you do your final thoughts first. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm glad the preseason's over, fellas. We got to see some things. There's some things we didn't get to see. To me, the preseason is like being stranded on a desert island. You do a lot of things that you hope it doesn't go back to the mainland, and you hope it doesn't continue when you get back home, but you do what you have to do to survive. I feel like watching it that I was stranded on an island as well. I'm glad to be stranded on an island with you guys, but I tell you what, there was some painful parts of this preseason because I'm going to go to my theme of the entire year. I have no clue who the Pittsburgh Steelers are offensively. I have no clue who they are defensively. We have some specs and some hints of who they are, but just bring on number 8, bring on number 90, heck, bring on number 4. Let's go.
Amen. Love it. All right, Dave, final thoughts?
Yeah, I got to thinking about this more and talked about it actually a little bit on this morning's Pittsburgh Standard Time. You can still go back and listen to that. And that is, once the roster is cut to 53 next Tuesday at 4 p.m., that is really when the preseason completely doesn't matter. Like right now, I'm like, I want to go back and look at the game and see how this player did, this player did, this player did. I got to, at least this time they play on Thursday and there's a little bit more time compared to these other teams who play Friday and Saturday. That maybe I'll do that here the next couple of days, because seriously, once this team is the 53, and honestly, when they go down to 53, chances are that's not going to be the same 53 that actually is there for by the time week 1 gets there. There'll still probably be some changes in there, but it just feels different, and all this prep and everything. And right now we're talking about who's in and who's out and who's on the bubble and all that other stuff. It is the cases have been made. It is now time to move on. And I just remembered something that I just want to throw out there, because Jeff had said about the team cutting down, and they did it somewhat in waves. What it was they cut several players before they had, I think, practice on Monday or something like that. That they actually cut some, and they kept some players around for one more practice is what it was. So, and I'm like, that's probably a lot of guys that might be practice squad material, things of that nature. We'll see how it all plays out, but it's nice that the preseason is done. Like I said, bring on the 53-man roster, because that's when it gets real. And I do want to say one more thing, because we just did get one more super chat. $1.99 in the tip jar from good old Tyler W. Says, thank you for covering the preseason. On to the New York Jets. That's exactly what I want to say to finish up.
Absolutely. I want to say thank you to all the players that were on the 90-man roster that entertained us, because I found this preseason entertaining because I was just really looking forward to football. And I really am looking forward to just watching like meaningful football. And like you said, it's over. We'll get to the 53-man roster and all those cut downs. It'll be great. We're going to have you covered at SteelCurtainNetwork.com. So make sure you check out SteelCurtainNetwork.com. That site is growing by the day. Got some great content, really good growing community. You can join for free. Go to the top of the page, click log in, create a free account. You can start commenting on articles, be a part of the website, and make sure you check out all of our podcasts on the Steel Curtain Network, wherever you get your podcast, by searching Steel Curtain Network. That does it. The next time you'll see us on a post-game show will be after a regular season game over 2 weeks. Gosh, that's going to be a while. But in the meantime, folks, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.